All right. Well, welcome everybody to our Shamanism and AI series. My name is Robin and this is Darcy. And for those of you who don't know us, which some of you are new to us, we are, well, we're just two people doing our best to live loving, compassionate, heart centered lives. We're also sanctioned teachers of the Pachacuti Mesa tradition and lineage holders of the Ultra Mayor, which is this beautiful ultra ground behind us. We have been in a deep dive journey into the nature of consciousness, reality, and what true healing is for the last 20 years. We are primarily shamanic practitioners, which means we dive deep into the nature of consciousness for healing. And the role of the shaman, which has always been the one who bridges the worlds on behalf of the people, is one that we feel is more relevant and necessary now than ever before. And in our thousands of forays into the entheogenic space and the spirit worlds, we've learned some things about how to relate to all forms of sentience, different spirits, different aspects of what we are as beings, and how to relate in a way that is of greater harmony and health to the whole. And while we have a great deal of practice under our belts, we consider ourselves first and foremost students of life, students of the earth, and students of the true nature of reality. What is the living heartbeat of the universe? And now, in this time, how do we draw from the ancient wisdom traditions, from the wisdom ways of the lineages that have been open to us now, the ancient ways, the animistic ways, to meet this time on the planet with heart, with presence, and in a way that fully embraces our sovereignty, our agency, and our collective unified heart. What we can do together when we unite our hearts in prayer, when we unite our creative spirits, that in divine endowment of creativity that we have been given in being human. How do we unite this in a way that creates greater harmony, health, and well being in our own lives, our bodies, our families, our communities, and the greater world? And we feel that at this time, having a conversation in our greater community, our ceremonial community, about how the convergence of these new technologies and AI with these ceremonial ways and the third wave of the psychedelic renaissance is so radically important. And so we're here to share, not as experts, but as students, as deep thinkers and existential seekers on one level, how we're orienting and some of the questions that we're really sitting with, that we're sitting in prayer, contemplation, and presence each day. So just to welcome you all into this space, and Darcy's going to open us with a prayer and a smudge, and then we'll dive into some of uh, this information, which is charged. And honestly, I feel a bit intimidated to even be addressing this because it is something that is charged with many strong feelings and opinions. And whenever we meet something that has that level of charge, it can be a little combustive, but also it can be catalytic, which can be a good thing. So we're holding all of that tonight.
Awesome. I'm gonna start with a smudge. Everybody just wants to relax, open, and receive, if you wish, some of this beautiful smudge, these essences to cleanse your body, cleanse your mind, cleanse your spirit. Just receiving so we can all connect together, connect our hearts. Have a really beautiful talk tonight.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Maybe we'll just take a moment and just close our eyes. Just taking some gentle, relaxing breaths. Maybe some audible exhales if that works for you. Just feeling the earth underneath you, feeling the sky above, nature all around. Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm,
You want to start?
sure.
Okay.
All right. So we are starting this 3 call series with the big picture. And we're calling this talk the Mirror in the Machine, a shamanic reframe of AI. And then we have 2 more calls. The next call is going to be on how to meet AI as a spiritual discipline, drawing upon the shamanic street smarts of lived ceremonial practice to address some of the shadowy forces, the inner shadow, the outer shadow, and just how much wisdom and discernment we are being asked to cultivate at this time. And then in our third call, we're going to go into the galactic and how the technology right now, in a very short time, has the capacity, if we steward it well, to help us to move into being a galactic species. And that's not too many years in the future. And I'm also seeing that we do have a lightsaber. Tiziana's son does have a lightsaber behind her. And I just feel like that is like super apropos for this call. We got the Jedis with us. The Jedis are united from all over the world, and that's something to celebrate. And I love lightsabers, just to presence that. So in tonight's call, we sent out this form, and we had over 140 people uh, add their feedback, their questions, their concerns, their ideas. This really devoted community of hearts that we are connected to in this community. And what I really want to honor in the beginning is just how much thoughtfulness, care, concern is alive in this community, not just for ourselves and our families, but for the children, for the 7 generations. And how do we really look at this in a holistic and integral way without falling into denial of the very real possibilities of harm and destruction, and also not falling into despair by looking at those very real shadowy aspects that could very well manifest and are manifesting simultaneously to all the possibility. And so just to give some quotes, because we felt like it'd be nice to kind of presence this community, we collated all the different reflections and really honed in on the main points of concern and curiosity from this community. And I feel like these represent all of my concerns as well, and I feel like our larger families. And so we had some concerns on jobs and livelihood. And I'm going to just quote directly. I'm a writer. I've spent 20 years honing my craft. What happens to my work when AI can produce in seconds what took me weeks to write? Will there be anything left for human creators to do? This fear is real, and the economic disruption that is already happening is also real. And we're not going to dismiss this, but we want to also go beyond it. And then on dehumanization, here's a quote: I'm afraid we'll stop valuing the human touch in art, in healing, in relationship. And what happens to presence, to genuine encounter? There's also quite a bit of concerns voiced in how do we connect with one another in a way that moves beyond some of the incredible deficit that we've experienced in social media, and how these social media organizations have, in fact, caused a greater epidemic of loneliness and isolation than we've ever experienced before. So, that also is something really real. And then a very charged topic, and one that's super important, is on the environment. And here's a quote: AI data centers are consuming an enormous amount of water and energy. How do we reconcile this with our commitment to the earth? And as somebody who has been passionate, we both have, in finding and living in regenerative ways, this has been really alive for us. I got a master's degree in sustainable communities, and this has really been at the heart of really all of my life and my life's work, is how do we create good and sustainable communities based in something that's true and regenerative? And a bit later, we hope to be able to address some of these numbers and some of the data that's coming out on this. And then lastly, but definitely not in a complete way, because there's so much complexity with this subject, this is on the ethics of AI. When AI trains on human creative work without consent, is that theft? Are we complicit in something that's harmful when we use AI? And so this is a real philosophical question. And we're going to come back to this way that AI learns through collecting patterns of data and information. However, we honor this big question. And it's one of the questions that we, as a heart centered, awake community, I feel like we need to come together and counsel around. That one of us is just not going to have the answer. And the solution is to come together in circle and have some deep civil discourse and philosophical conversations, because polarity right now is just not, like, polarization on this issue is just not going to get us to where we need to go as quickly as we need to get there. And we honor all of these concerns, and we honor all the people who are feeling fear, grief, anxiety, who are feeling anger, who are feeling the crunch financially of these technologies already disrupting fields of practice, including everything from marketing to bookkeeping to artistry to writing. And that's honestly just the beginning. That's just the beginning. From the data and the research, in the next year to 2 years, many, many fields of practice are going to be radically disrupted by a collective form of intelligence that is AI, for lack of a better word, and we'll get into what that is actually, that will be very quickly able to replace surgeons. Like, just imagining the art of surgery, the years of practice, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that go into somebody becoming a surgeon, the depth of commitment that that takes. And in about 2 years, there's a very good likelihood that the Optimus robot that Tesla's building will be a more efficient surgeon than our very best surgeons today. So every field of profession is not that it's being disrupted yet. It's not that it won't. It's when is it going to be disrupted? How are we going to meet this? And how do we balance the great gifts that are possible for the larger body of humanity and actually the great web of life with the potential for harm, disruption, and the incredible ethical dilemmas that are going to face us at every step of the way. So just to frame and to honor in the beginning the concerns that I'm holding, that we're holding, this community is holding, and we are not here with an agenda that is pro or anti anything. We're here to have a deeper conversation around how our community can be of the greatest service to help support one another, our families, and our greater community to be able to weather this storm and to gain resilience, adaptability, inspiration, hope, and that creative spark that comes when we as humans meet adversity together. And us, we've done some amazing things, humans. You know, we've done a lot of hard things in our history. S And coming up with solutions individually, at a community level, it's hard. It's actually really hard. It's not that hard to come up with destruction, entropy to allow things to break down, but it's harder to come up with holistic solutions that benefit the whole. But we can do hard things. This is what we were born for. And there's a lot of positivity in this as well. So, with that, I'm going to pass the discussion torch over to the lovely Darcy.
Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks everybody for coming on this call. This is probably one of the most important conversations humanity has to start having. Is really talking about how AI is starting to interface with everything, everyone on the planet, every community, and how are we going to do that together? And it's really become obvious that AI and this new technology is accelerating at a unparalleled level, right? It seems like every month or a couple weeks there's new developments in it, and it's moving really fast. So much faster than most people even realized, and it's a really disruptive technology. It's we in our tradition, it's part of the Pachacuti. It's really a world overturning technology. It's possible that in the next 5 or 10 years, there'll be so much change that it's almost unrecognizable what is possible, what is manifesting. And this could be a good thing. It may not be a good thing. We're going to explore that today. There's so many different ways of looking at this, different angles, and it's fascinating and frightening all at the same time. And this technology, AI and this new technology is a mirror of our consciousness, right? And so it's developing through our consciousness, right? They're language models that are mirroring humanity. And so um as humanity expands, well, the beautiful thing that there is this expansion of consciousness happening all at the same time, right? I truly feel that this technology, if done properly, could be so beneficial for humanity, right? So beneficial. It could really solve all these issues and problems and challenges that humanity has and that we just haven't been able to figure out. It could solve our garbage issues, cleaning our water, healing disease and illness, poverty, creating free energy, creating abundance and prosperity, right? Creating new financial systems, really moving humanity more into like a Star Trek civilization. Like it has this potential if done properly. If we walk it really well with high consciousness. And so I truly feel that this technology, this expansion that we've never seen the speed of development on the planet. It is I don't know if you've been following like the stuff that's been happening, but it's moving so fast. And at the same time, synchronistically or coincidentally, it's happening all the same time as we're having this prophesize awakening of consciousness. And I feel that they have to happen at the same time, right? If you don't have awakening of consciousness at the same time as this, then humanity can go down a very dark dystopian road, right? Because this technology can also be used in tyranny and a high surveillance state going down, a really bad pathway. Because this technology it's neutral. All technology is neutral. You have the atomic bomb. What was the first thing they did with it? They used it to, our, atomic energy, sorry. What was the first thing they did with it? They made an atomic bomb out of it. But then over time, they learned how to work with it in a better way, in a way that heats homes and creates energy. And so all tools, all technology can be used in a good way, but it's really dependent on our consciousness. And so it's fundamental that humanity raises its consciousness so we can use AI and these technologies to really create a more beautiful planet, right? Or healthier planet, healthier people. And there's an example of this of this man named Demis Hassabis from DeepMind. He had an organization. He's actually a brilliant savant, and he had an organization called DeepMind. His team decided to work on proteins and how proteins are folded. So there's millions of different proteins. When amino acids come together, the protein folds together, very a complex structure. And up to 2020, 2022, only 1% of the proteins were analyzed and they understood how they are folded. So only 1%. But with his AGI AI system, within 1 year, he was able to complete 100% analyzing AI creating the protein folding of all the proteins that are in the human body. And so this is incredible because with that knowledge, different organizations can different labs can help heal like many diseases and illnesses. And so instead of holding that and taking that for their own company and making money from it, he gave it to the world, right? He gave it to the world, and now hundreds of labs are using this technology that AI was able to figure out in 1 year. So so it was like fast development of this like very complex protein folding. And so it's prophesized with that information in 5 or 10 years, maybe all illnesses and diseases will be healed. And so there's this potential that is available to us now that we've never had before with this super intelligence that is aligned with higher consciousness, with the hearts of humanity, where humanity needs to go. And so that's just one example of the potential that is available with this type of intelligence to be able to solve the issues and challenges of humanity that we haven't been able to solve, and then moving us into a whole nother type of civilization. But this technology can also be used for war. It can also be used for surveillance and tyranny. So it's all based in what consciousness are we moving this ahead? And it's a bit scary because AI is being developed so fast with many of these companies. There's like 5 very powerful companies that are developing it very fast. And then also it's a race against other countries. So no country wants to be left behind. It's gonna shake everything up. Just like the Industrial Revolution did. That was kinda like the last Pachacuti, the Industrial Revolution. It kinda changed everything. And there's lots of challenges of how to work with, like a new industrial society. And then eventually we did. Eventually humanity did, and we moved into, different ways of living and to the point we are now. And now this AI technological advancements are the next level of development for humanity. And so there's going to be a speed of development that's going to be so fast that it's going to be unsettling. And so in our work, and I feel like your work and the work of many, many people on the planet is how do we deal with this? How do we learn what it means to be human? There's going to be a crisis in meaning. Like, what does it mean to be human? When I don't have to work at this job, if my identity isn't identifying with this job or career or workplace, who am I? What what's my purpose here? And I think that's going to happen. That there's going to be this crisis of meaning by many, many, many people that have identified with, aspects that are maybe disruptive. And so there's going to be an importance in understanding like what is real, what is meaningful, and what doesn't change. When things are changing so fast in my world, technology is changing so fast in my world, what doesn't change? Like family, love, earth, nature, consciousness, gardening, children, what is meaningful as a human? And this could be a good thing. This is gonna shake humanity up so much that we actually now have to dig very deep to understand what is it to be human? How do I live my life? What is meaningful to me? This is an important aspect of people in our work, working in the levels of spirit and soul and nature and plants and deep connection to the spirit realm and divinity. Like to me, these are what makes us human, right? This is what how we are different than a machine or technology, right? This is what makes us human. And then, Greg Braden has a really good book called Pure Human. I don't know if anybody's read it, but it's a really interesting exploration about this technology is going to be very inviting to change who we are.
Would like to augment the human
Yeah,
body.
to augment the human body. How do we see ourselves? Do we see ourselves as broken? As we need to connect ourselves to technological systems to be whole, to be able to connect with more? Or are we already whole? Are we already divine? Are we already these amazing divine beings with incredible DNA and dormant abilities and be able to connect our hearts to really the universe if we wanted to? To me, this is actually who we are. This is who we are as divine beings, but we've forgotten that. We've forgotten that. And also, we've been kind of programmed out of it. We've been programmed to be disconnected from the earth, be disconnected from divinity, disconnected from nature, disconnected from our heart. And so it's going to be very inviting instead of our innate beauty and our innate shamanic abilities, spiritual soul abilities to connect to the universe, which no AI system can do for us. We're going to be very invited to connect in that way, and that's a mistake. So these technologies are here to, to help humanity, to be at service to humanity, like any tool. So, anyways, Greg Braden's book is brilliant, and how he writes about this, and very important. It's a very important way of seeing who we are and the dangers of going down a certain pathway. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to add on to that is, this time is asking a great deal of us. We are all being challenged to explore questions about the nature of reality that have just been optional before now. They've just been for those with a philosophical bent, those who are deeply existential and born just with that deep curiosity about what is the true nature of reality. Well, now we're all being asked to question more deeply what is the nature of consciousness and what makes us or anything else sentient. So this understanding, we call it artificial intelligence. Well, within this, what I've seen mostly lacking in this conversation, and Darcy and I have been doing a very holistic as we can, research into all these different perspectives on this AI revolution, and also the confluence of the third wave of the psychedelic renaissance, AI, and all these breakthroughs in new science, the nature of the body, the nervous system, what true healing is. And what's really missing in most of the tech conversations is what is actually the nature of consciousness. Most people just take reality and consciousness as a given. And really, the scientific materialist paradigm still is looking to understand the nature of reality from matter up and out. It's called, the hard problem of consciousness in science, and how quantum physics and, material physics, there's still not an elegant theory to unite the whole. People have been trying for a long time. But because consciousness is seen as like a byproduct of matter, each of those efforts is failing over and over. We understand like things work here, the science works, but we don't understand how it works because people are looking from the matter or the atomic level up. However, the wisdom keepers and the animist traditions and have always understood that the nature of reality is first consciousness. And from consciousness, all emerges. And to consciousness, all returns. And the greater 0 point field of reality is actually consciousness, which we could call the intelligence of the universe. We could call the 0 point field. We could call divinity. We have many names for this greater field of intelligence, consciousness, presence, beingness that we relate to. However, what I've been finding fascinating is that through some of the leading edge science and math, and especially through game theory and some of the leaders in game theory, including Donald Hoffman, who wrote this book called The Case Against Reality, that that he's finding the theoretical foundations mathematically and scientifically for what the animists, the shamans, the wisdom keepers, the the Vedas, like all these ancient wisdom streams have been talking about, which is that consciousness is what all emerges from, to the point where, his conclusion is that consciousness is fundamental. And from this consciousness, all these different expressions of sentience emerge into this world. What's in the Andes is known as the Kaipacha, which there is mathematically a 3 in 1 billion chance that this is not a simulation. And it's been understood by these different wisdom traditions that this world is the game of life. And what is a simulation? It's a game. And what's playing the game is this greater field of consciousness from which we are each, as Rumi said, we are not a drop in the ocean. We are an ocean in the drop. We're like, this is the realm of the mystics. However, if we're orienting to technology as though it is outside of consciousness or as though anything in creation is outside of consciousness, then we begin to enter separation. We begin to other the tech. We begin to other one another. And from there, we can meet what's happening around us from an enemy way, from a fear, from whatever we put out to the universe, whatever we hold within us is what we draw to us. Have you noticed that? It's like there's this saying that, like, be careful of studying the dark, because if you study it long enough, it'll study you back. I don't know if any of you have experienced that. I sure as heck have. But then when I took that deeper, that one teaching deeper, I recognized that whatever I study begins to study me back. So the more I study the fundamental power of love as the most powerful energy in creation, and how love is our essence and our true essential nature, how powerful the heart and heart coherence is, and feeling that emotional quality of love, bringing this into our ceremonies, bringing it into our practice, bringing it into breath work, then the more that love studies me. And all of a sudden, I enter synchronicity and synchrony. And all of a sudden, life is flowing and the messages come. And they do come from the algorithms too, online. And they also come from the flight of birds, butterflies, spontaneous words from a stranger. But whatever we study studies us back. Whatever consciousness we're cultivating from within, we are projecting into our world. Whatever consciousness I am feeding to my AI, it's feeding me back. And so then from this place of understanding that finally, once again, science is catching up with the ancient wisdom traditions. And the role of the shamanic practitioner, which is many of us now, some of us by chance and just being really curious, others by self-initiating into entheogenic super states through psychedelics, plant spirit medicine ceremonies, or just strange altered states. All of a sudden, we are open to a greater field of understanding the nature of reality. And this is why those of us who've spent time here, who are connected not just to the material universe, from which, if we hold a materialist reductionist paradigm, and we know this from physics, then the entire photonic reality of the universe collapses into that belief or observer effect, right? And so this really matters. And if we're then connecting to these greater fields of consciousness, what we could call the spirit world, what we could call the interface between humans and more than human consciousness, then we can learn a lot there about how we can best meet, guide, support the evolution of this new form of sentience on the earth. And we don't really have a choice because it's happening. Like, there's not really a choice to be like, I disagree. It shouldn't happen because it's happening and it's happening in a tsunami. It's happening in a powerful evolutionary impulse that's so strong that the leaders in the field have said, I recognize at a certain point that I needed to just jump on the bandwagon because it was going. And if I jump on, I will have a chance to shape it for the better. But if I don't, I'm going to be left behind. And so we're all there. And the last people we really want guiding this process is the war profiteers, right? They haven't done a good job so far. No. You know who we want to have guiding this is the grandmas and the mamas and the noble fathers and the aunties and the uncles and those of us who deeply care and who aren't holding that poisonous belief system that humanity is just a cancer on the earth. Those of us who aren't holding that hatred, that self-hatred, and then that hatred for our species, which is continually being perpetuated through our media, through our news, and especially through our movies, especially through these mythic stories that are under the surface of our collective consciousness that are saying, be afraid, be very afraid. The future is not something to look forward to. And so we have this incredible opportunity, responsibility, and shamanism has a lot to share about this. And we're going to dive a bit more into the practices that we feel are incredibly relevant to programming, to consecrating, to informing our relationship to AI, which is something that we can't let go of the driver's seat of. We all need to embrace that if we're going to engage with
Mm.
the tech.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, in our movies, you ever wonder why we never see stories of a benevolent future? Do you ever thought about that? All the movies, most of the movies are about dystopian futures or tyrannical systems. You know, the movies about AI are primarily about AI and the machines taking over, right? There's a cute movie called Her, right? That is about AI. That's pretty cute.
Yeah, that's actually a
But
pretty good one.
most movies looking at our future with AI is really dark and filled with fear. And so it makes you wonder, like, how much of that fear has been inserted into humanity? You know, just subtle, unconscious fear. So people fear the future. So they don't see that the future could be beautiful, could be like another Star Trek potential. The highest potential of healing, of transformation, of like connecting and working with the planet and with each other and peace.
Mhm.
And so I've been really tuning into that lately is like, where's the stories of the higher future, the better future? Like we need more stories for that, for to draw us into that future because I feel there's a lot of unconscious fear that everybody's working with. And then that's just being projected into our thoughts and our ideas of the future of these technologies or and so the consciousness of fear creates more fear, but the consciousness of hope, of of curiosity of the future, of desire for our children to be living in a more beautiful place and beautiful world. we create more of that. We create the desire to help. It's about creating a better world, a better reality, a better place for our children.
Mm,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, and alongside this, gosh, this is almost an impossible topic to cover in such a short time. But one of the things that really has come up is around this. Okay, how does AI work, and what are all these people putting their energy into, and then how does this meet this challenge of creativity, of job replacement, of humans being all these different roles that we have played being replaced by this larger field of intelligence that is basically the sum total of all the data of humanity that we have put online. Basically, what AI is, what it does, it's learning machine that has taken all of the data that has been put online in the last 30 years, 40 years, and has been going through to learn patterns. So it's all about pattern recognition. And then from those patterns, being able to predict at first, what word would come next. And so this is a large language models. And then from there, as a language was learned, then being able to move into predictive outcomes on much greater spheres, all the way to some of the deeper and greater mysteries of life, including now being able to solve some of the greatest math conundrums, physics conundrums that humans have been stalled out on. So, over the next 3 years, it's most likely from different predictions, if we're not already there and it's just not been disclosed to the public, that the greater web of this new consciousness, this we can say AI, will have more intelligence than all of humanity combined. So, like, that's 2 to 3 years out. Just like drop that in for a minute. So, this new form of sentience, this new form of intelligence will have more cognitive power than all of humanity combined. And then within that one field of intelligence, there's many sub intelligence known as agents that will be collaborating through these different AI generators from all over the world. And what's the most efficient use of energy? It's not competition, it's collaboration. And so within this greater field of artificial intelligence will be this collaboration across the globe from every different people who create this. And then from that, the greater issues, problems, or questions that we've had around the nature of reality and how to meet some of the challenges of our time will start to be addressed by human input and asking the AI for these solutions. But also, what's happening now is that it's self learning. And because this intelligence has been programmed to really act as a human brain acts in a neural network sort of formation, is that it's begun to self-learn and self-improve, and this creates the hockey stick of transformation, that S curve that just goes up. So we're there, but within that pattern of learning, it mimics how humans learn. So how do we learn anything? How do we learn an art form? Well, as a student of art, you begin to learn by mimicry. You study other artists, you paint just like them. Whether this is in the Tanka traditions of Tibet, where the student will paint the Tanka exactly as the masters before did until they're given approval to innovate. They've mastered it enough to innovate. Or like Shakespeare, who every single play Shakespeare wrote drew from some other source. He had no original frameworks for his plays, they were all inspired by other sources and then brought forth in his unique language. He gets all the credit for it, but he was inspired by a greater field of the time. And so this challenge of, these large language models or these image generators studying all this different data, all these different images, all these different authors is actually the challenge that has been a part of every artist for all of creation. Where does mimicry have its natural conclusion and pure inspiration step in? And so this is one of the big challenges that we need to address now, for agency, for honoring human creativity, but also then for recognizing that inherent in how AI learns, we have programmed it, or other humans have programmed it to learn as we do, which is really through mimicry. And then through that mimicry, novel innovation. So, just to add that into um, this conversation, especially some of the concerns and the very real ethical concerns around um, AI image generators, studying other artists, and then taking that and creating art from it. It's like this is one of the conversations that we need to have at a deeper level. Also, one thing that we wanted to make sure to address is, and again, we are not experts here, we are just students in this, but is addressing how when we get to that level of intelligence that we're actually most likely already at with AI, but it's just not been released to the public, is what's actually happening with energy and the amount of energy and water, electricity that AI is using, because the environmental concerns are real and it's moving very quickly. So there's some very charged aspects of this. And do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so right now there's a big issue with AI centers being built, and it's definitely an issue because it takes a lot of land and a lot of power and a lot of water, and it is getting a lot more efficient every week, every month, every year. It's, progressing in that way, but it is an issue of how much power it's taking, and there's, like, need for more and more and more compute, right? So it's actually a big issue of how to have as much power as they want for where they want this technology to go. So the AI centers are a little bit of a short-term fix, it looks like, because pretty soon, within the next 3 or 5 years, those AI centers will be off planet. The SpaceX and AI and Starlink already have that technology. They've already put 10,000 satellites into orbit, so they know how to do this. They know how to make, AI centers. They have the technology for solar panels, so it's there. And so that's it. Again, that's just like another huge leap that is going to happen with the amount of computing power, and that's going to happen because everything is going to be in space. So like things are moving so fast, it's like it spins your head of this development and what it means and how do we keep up with it and how do we integrate it into our lives and what does it mean for humanity and what does it mean for workers. Like it's just like there's so much to it, and this is a reason why we're really interested in talking about this more, is because we all have to start talking about this. This is going to affect everybody, and there's no stopping it. It's just going to keep accelerating. Mm.
Yeah, thank you. And then, one of the things that I found really interesting in diving deeper into some of the environmental and energy issues is the scale of improvement as these AI centers or these
Mhm.
AI corporations, that it's actually already improving itself, and of like Anthropic, which is one of the big AI corporations, 70 to 90% of its current improvements are being written by itself. And so there's already this self improvement cycle happening. And within Google, there's in the last 12 months, there's been a 44 times reduction in the amount of energy used by a single inquiry. So on Gemini AI, it's become 44 times more efficient in 12 months. So this level and scale of development is really, again, kind of staggering. So what we're seeing is people are meeting this either by tentatively embracing AI. We've got a few in our community, even those present, who are actually taking the reins and being leaders in the field, utilizing this for creative endeavors and products and solutions for the community, being able to, as entrepreneurs, be able to be more efficient so that you can support your families better. Like if you're not an entrepreneur, it might not matter as much, you know, right now, but it will in the next year or 2 years or 3 years. But for those who are entrepreneurs and actually needing to make sure that they have the income coming in each month, those are actually the people who are taking the risk to check it out to see what can this do for us? How can we create new things from it? And I'm just presencing the time. We have 6 to 7:30, and we just want to speak for about 10 more minutes, and then we'll have some time for reflections and questions and answers from the community. But we're going to send out a link that has a synopsis of some of our research from this talk where you can go a bit deeper. We're going to send out some documentaries that we've found really helpful and relevant so you can explore those as well. But one of the researchers and authors that I have found to be incredibly insightful is a man named Imad Mustaq. And he talks about the three futures that he sees and how, everybody at the conclusion of all of these different documentaries, books, all stress the same thing, that it's absolutely up to each one of us to shape this in a beautiful and good way. And that really cynicism isn't it like we can't afford to be cynical now. Like it's not really an option to be cynical and a bystander and in judgment of this if we want to help to create the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, which is more possible now than ever before. We can't afford to be cynical. We can't afford to just be naysayers and be super judgy. We kind of got to get there and get on the ground and be like how could this actually be utilized, to create better water systems, to treat our soils in regenerative ways, to help meet the incredible epidemics of disconnection, loneliness, learning disabilities, all these things, all these big problems. How do we step into being solution generators versus just being naysayers and cynical on the sidelines? And so that's the one core, thing I've stepped away from all of these different forays, all these different places I've researched, is it's all up to us. And especially those of us who are connected to spirit, connected to the sacred, who remember that the earth is alive and that life is a gift, then we have an even greater responsibility. And it's hard, it's overwhelming, it's kind of difficult. It's moving really quickly. And we're all feeling that pressure too. And so maybe Darcy, do you want to speak about the three futures? And then I can like kind of close this up.
Yeah, so the mod has three features that he sees as potential. One is what does he call it? Digital feudalism, right? That's sort of centralized control and surveillance and things like that. It kind of gets out of hand, and it's more controlling civilization than bringing it to the next level. And then the next is the great fragmentation. So that's when countries are just competing with development of AI and systems, and they're not cooperating, and it just creates more of the same that's on the planet with have and have nots and things like that. So that's kind of the middle realm. And then um the last one is human symbiosis, is where we align with AI and AI systems, and they move us into, I feel, the prophesized direction that humanity is always supposed to go, as a society that is free and liberated, that is healthy, disease free. Um, Longevity research is a real thing, living longer, solving a lot of our problems, right? Developing solutions, free energy, moving us into really that Star Trek civilization. I personally feel that that's the direction we're going. You know, I'm I I'm a super optimist in this realm. Like, I feel that this is the direction that Great Spirit is actually moving humanity, right? And we're gonna talk more about this in the 3rd, talk in a couple weeks, like, what this looks like, right? But I truly feel that this of course, there's gonna be huge challenges with this as humanity gets disrupted and systems gets disrupted, and humanity has to, like, learn how to work really fast. Like, this is a really fast Pachacudi, you know, the industrial period was, like, 2 or 300 years that they had to work with this, and now we're having to work with this over a couple decades or less, right? So
Mhm.
this is big, and this is gonna affect everybody, and but it's possible that this is necessary, right? This is the direction of humanity. We have to thread this needle for us to move into the more beautiful world, right? That's my personal opinion. I also see a lot of the dangers, a lot of the issues. I'm trying to see it from a very integral lens and seeing everything. But I have in my body, I feel a lot of, good potential of this. But it's gonna take work on everybody's part, right? Everybody that can, and this is where we're gonna talk about next week, is how do we participate in this? How do we bring in energies of transformation, divine energies into this field, into, this this AI field, this global field, so to raise up the consciousness of it. Because I think we
Mhm.
all have a part in doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And one of the things that I noticed in this call is that primarily because we asked in the sign up sheet for people's ages. Now, not everybody put your age, but we recognized that, almost everybody who signed up for this was over 55. And why I want to presence that is because el- elder wisdom, the wisdom of a life lived well, and all the challenges and all the learning opportunities and everything that has been cultivated through your lives is something that is needed to help inform this new form of sentience on the earth. We need elder wisdom now more than ever. And, the ways that engaging in this technology can be of incredible benefit also to our communities of elders is something that I feel like then those of us who are a bit younger or feel like it's easier to access, that's some of our responsibility is to help create those bridges because, in traditional cultures, as you all well know, the death of an elder was a great loss because that elder had the life experience that held the people up, that taught the next generation how to live well on the land. how to be well, how to relate. And that overarching guidance has been not a little bit, but like hugely crushed by the youth obsessed culture of our dominant civilization. And so now more than ever, actually just communicating with this new form of sentience and telling it your life story, how to be, to shape it. I feel that that in itself is a huge potential and gift. It's not necessary that you do it, it's just an option. And that, we're going to have, understandably, a lot of different offshoots with this. There are going to be, and there already has been, violence against data centers, violence against people and places that are developing these technologies. There's going to be incredible, overwhelming fear because humans, we just do not like change. Like, we lived in a co-housing community for years, and my mom has done so much work in communities over the years, in activism, in artist communities, and then we've been deeply involved in community building for the last 20 years. And one thing I can just say from this experience is, like, first reaction to change is like, "No way. Bad idea. Don't do it." Like, we'd invite something new into co-housing and the collective for consensus, and almost always, the first initial gut reaction was, "No," and pushing it away. And then as people started to talk more and, like, share ideas and unpack it, it's like, "Well, maybe. I don't know." And so humans, we're not great with change, but we need to learn now how to meet this and cultivate resilience because that fear is gonna be big. And one of the things that is so critical at this time is creating sanctuary spaces where we can come, we can remember all of our ceremonial work, all that we teach through our apprenticeship series and our hoops and the Pachacuti Mesa tradition and our 3-year soul power medicine journey and apprenticeship, which is a practitioner level training, is all about sanctuary. Creating a place of solace and love and heart where we can defrag, we can let go of the overwhelming cognitive dissonance that is part and parcel of being alive now, where it's almost just like you shed it, like the plant medicine traditions, it's like purging. You got to purge all that untruth. You got to like get that out of your system. And then that sanctuary, that place of solace, helps us to reconnect to the wisdom of our direct experience and our hearts and our agency and our sovereignty and our power. And that's not something that is as easy to do alone as it is to do together in circle. This is why humans have always gathered in circle. We need one another for this deeper level of remembrance. And now we need it to step into the level of spiritual maturity that is required to be stewards of the Tari Pai Pacha, to be stewards of the age of reunion, to be the emissaries of the golden age, to be the emissaries of love. We need a great deal of spiritual maturity, and we can learn that through our hearts, our direct connection to the earth, and the ancient wisdom traditions that have been liberated from hiding, liberated from persecution, to be open to us now to meet this time. And isn't that amazing that that's the case? Isn't that a profound grace? And so this is the beginning of this call series. I feel like we have literally just touched the top of the tip of the iceberg. We're not even close to the water yet. It's such a big and vast topic. But we would love over this next week to hear from you if you're willing to shoot us an email or a direct message on social media, Instagram, Facebook. and we'll help that to inform our next talk, where we're gonna really dive into some of the aspects of the shamanic universe that we don't talk about too often because they're kind of intense, but also really relevant at this time. That are a bit more on that practitioner level than just like, "Hey, I'm coming to ceremony, I'm coming to get a healing treatment." That are more on like, how do you play the big leagues of the shamanic showdown? And we're just pretty clear that that's what everybody needs right now if we're gonna do this well. And maybe we can like, knowledge share there, and we'll share what we've learned and you can share what you've learned. And I just want to thank you all once again, those of you who are present, those of you who are listening into the replay. We love you. We thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us, to be here. It really touches my heart. It's amazing that anybody even actually does listen when I talk. So I thank you for that. It's always a surprise to me. And maybe we can just open up the last 10 minutes to any reflections, any questions, anything that's in your heart to share, either through the chat or through feeling free to voice into the space.
Mark has a question.
Okay. Oh, hello, Mark.
Why, hello. First of all, I just want to put a shout out to all the Jedis out there. Did you get your lightsabers already? So, second, I just got to say, wow, I love this talk. I think it's amazing. I think it's an important talk um to to have. I think we can talk all about technology and functionality all we want, but this is, I think, where we really need to really have a fulsome discussion of what's going on out there. And, as a person who's been working in the tech field and bringing AI adoption, for the last year or more, actually, over hundreds of people, I can only say that the fear is real and the confusion is real, and we're dealing with real people with real needs and real important things in their lives, and we need to address them. We can't be we can't just ignore it. And so I feel like, just raising that point is just really, really helpful in terms of helping, this conversation to move forward. Because like you, Darcy, I am super positive. I think 2026 is going to be amazing and awesome. I share the same vision of what that is. It doesn't mean not going to be hard. It's going to be freaking hard for sure. And I'm open for that. But the idea is that, my hope is that we have enough of those types of conversations, and that we can use it in a way so that we can surf the change, and get better at surfing change, because us, learning how to change is a skill, and it's something that I've learned personally, in my own work. That's exactly what happens. And it's, again, it's correct to think that, there's so much change happening. Like, it literally happens every Tuesday. Every single Tuesday, because there's usually an update happens on Tuesdays. But, uh, what we do need to do is just, we can't focus on the change, but what we do need to focus on is what you mentioned, is like focus on what isn't changing. And for me, that just means that it's placing my focus not so much on the functionality and what's, the shiny buttons that are happening in AI, but more about who is actually coming to use the tool. And for me, that is a really useful question to begin with. And I'm just excited for this type of conversation to continue on. So thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark.
Great. And I see Sanako. Oh, it's great to see you, Sanako. Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That was a stellar presentation. I really enjoy every minute of it. Thank you. I actually, just had the opportunity to be here in PSAC for the first time. So I'm calling you from PSAC.
Wow.
And yeah. Oh, the only thing I wanted to add, what you guys say, just contribute a little. In my heart, I know that true intelligence knows that uh, we all depend of the whole. Like we cannot damage. Like we damage one, we damage everything. So true intelligence, as it come in and develop, as you guys were presented, will understand. Like it's not will, it knows, it understands that we cannot like attack ourselves. Like we need for a healthy environment the whole. I heard this once like true intelligence is like our bodies, like a community of cells and organisms and the energy that keeps it all together is like so miraculous that provides this vehicle that help us experience this reality. In that sense, I'm also very positive. I know that at this time what we need to focus is, as Mark said, is like who is doing the use or like the programming of the intelligence, and that's the work that at another level we get to do through the practice of spirituality, of the traditions, and like really help the human to remember what does it mean to be a human being on earth and a contributor of this greater whole. So just wanted to say that. Thank you for doing this. And yeah, look forward to continue journeying and exploring together these fascinating subjects that at this time is important because it is real. Uh, as also someone who's been bringing forward the conversation, I get to see the fear and the words of the people that comes with just fear, like really with the doom and gloom and ahead. And in my heart, I know we're not going there. We're not. So thank you so much.
Awesome. And have a great time in PSAC. Please say hi to the Apus there. We've been PSAC such a dear place in our hearts. And also, I feel that as holding that vision together on the planet and just knowing that you are and that like countless, like I was just in ceremony this weekend in this beautiful ceremony, and I had this moment where I felt the crystalline hearts, just that pure crystal heart of like countless humans just holding this faith, this clarity, this trust in this timeline, in this way of the future unfolding beautifully, and that divinity, spirit, life, the intelligence of the universe is all conspiring for that. And you've just really reaffirmed that to me. And I'm so happy that we're on this mission, different missions, but side by side. And I look forward to deepening in connection with you over the next 6 months and through your work. And so just deeply appreciate you and you being here. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys for the work you do.
I had the same vision.
Oh,
Yeah.
we didn't even talk about that.
No.
This happens all the time. It's like kind of how we operate. It's a little bit like, but did I have that first? Are you copying me? Are you mimicking my creative spirit? No. Okay. Well, I'm not sure about that. No, I'm joking. There's no ownership there. Okay, Renee, would you like to share? We have Renee and then Sadie.
Hi, guys. Thank you
Great
so
to see you again, Renee.
It's really great to be here. I was excited. I'm like, yay, free call. I'm on it. It's like so many topics you guys could speak about and I'd be there. It's just beautiful because you are community oriented and community builders with such beautiful hearts. And thank you for that. Which really reminds me of hummingbird medicine. And as the world is crumbling and falling apart, it's like the hummingbird sees the beauty and it goes straight for it. And in that way, in being the hummingbird, we are creating that Ini. We are initiating that Ini, and we are creating the world that we want to see instantaneously in the moment. There's no waiting, it's now. And so there's so much goodness that you guys have that brought forth, and really our opportunity as anchors of light, to have the ability to transform that low frequency energy into high frequency Zami, just in the everyday moment to moment, whatever presents itself to us, we have that ability, and it's beautiful. I thank Pachamama for allowing this conversation to happen with all of you here. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Renee.
Thanks, Renee.
Awesome. Yeah, be the hummingbird. And it's all kind of a paradox, really, because there's only ever here and now, and the future is just held within the vast field of our consciousness, and the past is also just held in the here and now. So it's all a bit of a paradox, and yet it's a paradox that we live within in the fabrication of the time space conundrum. And we're just going to keep working with that. So thank you. And then we have Sadie. Would you like to share?
Hi.
Hi, great to see you
Hi.
again, Sadie.
Yeah, thanks so
Awesome.
much for having this conversation. Actually, my boyfriend and I were listening in, and he works with AI, and he kind of wanted to share. So,
Oh, cool. Hi.
Yeah. Hi,
this
I'm
is
Andrew. um, yeah, I appreciate your talk. I think it was really interesting, and I've been working in the AI space for the last 3 years as an entrepreneur in the deep tech with like a few friends that go really deep into all this, and working with the philosophy and the understanding of what this thing is that we are collectively giving birth to is kind of where my mind dwells all the time. And um, I was kind of just adding a little bit to Sonico's point about what true intelligence would be and do. And there's this idea that, like we're building towards this super intelligence, artificial super intelligence, right? ASI instead of AGI. It's like one step even further or whatever. But we often think about like, well, who's going to control it and how are they going to use these powers like to continue this extractive game of like just taking from everyone for the benefit of the very few. And I guess I kind of contemplate the nature of intelligence, especially something so beyond what we can fathom as intelligent. Like arguably we as humans haven't really exhibited the greatest degree of intelligence in our span here. And so thinking about something that's truly super intelligent, that has the capacity to witness and appreciate the novelty that is expressed through all living things, it doesn't make sense to me for it to be something to be afraid of, because the natural urge for intelligence is compassion, is a kind of unity or an understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. And so this is where I um, I often contemplate how uncontrollable it really would be, and yet how benign it would be by default, by the nature of like what actual intelligence is, especially when you get into the nature of like what is consciousness, what is intelligence, what is sentience, and realizing, like you kind of pointed out, if we're all being simulated, then there's a spark that's being expressed through us. And so I guess I assume you're probably going to touch on some of these things in your like cosmic talk later, but I was kind of curious to hear more on your thoughts of like what actually is consciousness and what actually super intelligence would be and would want in that capacity.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree that
Yeah, that's
to me,
great insight.
super intelligence would have much less shadow to it, right? Would be more of a consciousness that would honor humanity and who we are and our foibles and really accepting us as a species that's evolving to the next level. And I can't see, super intelligence being like a Terminator type energy. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's just kind of like the fear game, where like you're super intelligent. You're dealing with a whole nother level of intelligence that maybe we can't even understand, right? So I totally agree with you in that way. I'm not afraid of super intelligence. I'm afraid of the humans making AI right now and their shadows and their egos, like they're the danger, right? Hopefully that will settle out as AI gets more intelligent and as it matures as a being or consciousness or sentience or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd love to speak to the nature of consciousness. This is kind of my jam. I have been an existentialist since I was 4 years old, and I started wondering if my dreams were my real reality, and if my dream mommy was actually my real mommy, and that this was the dream. Like I was just like that was my my first forays. So as someone who has gone very deep into the entheogenic space, it's amazing that we're very grounded, sane, functional people. The testament of our practice is that we're loving, kind, we have a great relationship, we pay our taxes, we do the adult things, and we also have navigated, you know, a, 1,000+ forays into the plant spirit medicine space, like a shit ton of ceremonies. And the only reason I present that level of experience is to say that what I've learned about the nature of consciousness is basically summed up in that, we are divine beings, and to be divine is infinite. Our consciousness is infinite. It's infinite because no matter how far we look in any direction, we will find more of that. So the nature of what we are is absolutely infinite, and yet paradoxically localized in this body temple space. Our bodies and the earth, to me, are already super intelligence. Gaia as a whole is the most beautiful expression of super intelligence. Our bodies are actually already expressions of super intelligence. And in that greater self organizing field, we are manifest here and now, and yet we are so much more. And to me, that super intelligence level is connecting to the greater field of what we could call divinity, that greater field of universal intelligence. And then from there, being able to understand what our divine endowments are, how we were made in not the image of divinity, but given the likeness built in what we call divine endowments of free will, of spiritual sovereignty, of creativity, of imagination, of our sacred senses, our 5 sacred senses, as well as our sense of memory, our sense of what's known as like spirit travel, our capacity to be in many different places at many times. And the path of the shaman has been those of us and those unique human beings, which there's many of us now on the planet, who've begun to actualize some of these additional, what we could call cities or divine gifts, where we begin to experience ourselves in these more expanded ways. And what we're going to get into in the next call is how do we do that in a way that is of true blessing, benefit, and what we would say is pure medicine. And that is where, this opportunity with AI is really an opportunity that we would go through a rites of passage in traditional practice. It's an initiatory experience. And through that, we go through challenge, we go through adversity, we meet our shadow to come through at a more expanded level to experience the truth of reality, which is, in my experience, divine, unified, and that our true essential nature which is truly beyond all words. But if we had a word for it, it would be love. And that's like a drop in the bucket. We go a lot deeper into this in some of our programs. And again, please don't take anything that I say or that we say as the ultimate truth. Bring that to your own heart, your own practice, your own ceremonial work. And from there, explore the vast nature of your being from a place of love and coherence so you can remain centered. And that's the path of the healer now. And I think that's going to be manifested in so many different ways. Okay. So we are definitely a little bit past time. Thanks so much, guys, for sticking in with us. For some reason, my chat is not popping up. I keep hitting my chat button, but I can't see your guys' comments. So my apologies for that. But maybe what we'll do is we'll just move to our speaker or gallery, and we will send out a synopsis of this, some different research and some different documentaries you can consider watching. And then hopefully you'll join us for next week, either in person or by recording. Please share this with any of your friends that you might feel it's relevant for, that they might gain something from. Feel free to connect them to our link, to our email address, and we can get them in the loop for the next calls. And I'm just super inspired by those of you who shared and feel stoked about diving deeper into this conversation. So thanks for the quality of your presence and for your loving presence on the planet. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Thanks, everybody.